الأول بالعربي برحب بكل السادة الضيوف زملاء الأهرام. Of course, it is both a pleasure and an honor to have with us this morning His Excellency Dr. Mehatiir محمد, the former Prime Minister of Malaysia. For myself and Al-Ahram, we have the honor to welcome him as a famous politician, thinker, and a man of inspiration and achievements. Of course, you know all that Dr. Mehatiir Mohammed occupies a very special place in the hearts of all Muslims, especially especially here in Egypt. Of course, I don't mean especially the Muslim citizens of Egypt, but in the hearts of all of Egyptians. So, before we listen to his speech or talk or our dialogue with him, I would like to introduce to you my dear friend, Mr. Muhammad Qasim, the man who initiated this meeting for Al-Ahram. Mr. Qasim.
It's been a pleasure to be here, and we at the Federation of Egyptian Industries, we took the initiative to invite His Excellency Tun Dr. Mehatiir Mohammed to visit with us in Egypt at this historical moment of the history of our nation. We are at a crossroad after the revolution of January 25th, and we wanted to hear from the people who did it before us. And Dr. Mehatiir came as a model that we should really look at and listen to. And at the Federation of Egyptian Industries, we thought coming to Egypt and meeting with the thinkers and journalists of Al-Ahram, a very strong national institution that has been around over 120 years, I think it will add to the flavor of the visit. So this is why we took that initiative and contacted Dr. Hamad to have this meeting with this distinguished group. We are very pleased to be here with Dr. Mehatiir, and I think I hope this meeting will come up with some ideas, and with your paper you can spread these ideas to the Egyptian public. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, firstly I would like to say thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to make this paper. I had known well, although I cannot read Arabic, but I know Al-Ahram is it's an authoritative paper in Egypt, and it's highly respected. And I'm here because of the arrangements made. I don't know what it is that you are expecting of me, but if we have normally at press conference, I would ask the journalists to ask me questions. So perhaps you have some question to ask, and I hope I will be able to answer your questions. What I know about politics, of course, is based on my own experience and knowledge about Malaysia. But beyond that, of course, like everybody else, I follow what is happening in other countries and how they fare, what they do, and how they manage their politics. And beyond that, again, I have to read books on politics to understand the problems that I would be faced in the government. And although the Malaysian experience is not the same as the present Egyptian experience, but there are certain similarities which may be useful for us to know. The main thing I notice about the present situation in Egypt is that the government was overthrown by popular uprising. This also happened in the Philippines, where the people rose against Marcos. But although the people rose against Marcos, there was some idea of leadership in the uprising. Here, the uprising, I think, is quite spontaneous. People with different political leanings came together for one purpose, and that is in order to overthrow the government. And after that comes a problem, because while you can be united with that single intention, but forming a government will not be easy. So you are going to face with this problem of different ideologies, different thinking, of people who would come together, and there will be, of course, tussles between them. There will be people who want to lead the government, who would struggle and maybe resort to things that are not really acceptable. So this is a very crucial time for Egypt, because that initial unity directed at overthrowing the government is no longer the binding force, the glue that keeps you together. So how do you go about forming a new government? Well, we have decided, I believe, to have elections. But even elections will not be the end of this struggle to form a government, because elections, people sometimes no longer respect election results because of their past experience. But when people want to become leaders at all costs, they may resort to doing wrong things, even criminal things. So this is the interim period for you to choose your government. But for people who are new to democracy, to make it work is very difficult, because there are limits. Despite all the freedoms that we talk about, there are limits to those freedoms. Now, if the mindset of the people and the leaders accept this, the democratic negatives as well as the positives, it will not work. You have to accept that. So I think you are less lucky than we were when we became independent, because we had a constitution already, and we went to elections, and the party that won independence for Malaysia was so powerful. It was supported by 90% of the population, that it was able to win, and then of course form the government. But in later elections, it was not that popular, and the opposition began to make inroads into the system, and some states, not the federal government but the states, fell into opposition hands. And that also is necessary for us not to use the power of the central government to negate the results of the elections. So we have, even today in Malaysia, 5 states are ruled by the party that is not from the party that now rules the country. So this is the problem that I see you will be facing. Are you willing to accept that in an election somebody will lose, and you may even end up with nobody getting absolute majority in order to form a government? They may be forced to have coalition governments, and coalition governments are going to be very weak. So it will take time for you to adjust to the problems of democracy and how to make it work. On the question of the economy, Of course, the first thing that is important about the economy is the political stability. If you have no political stability, you cannot grow the economy. The economy depends upon stability. People will not put money to invest if they are not sure they would get a return. And if the country is unstable, then of course people will not put money and the economy will not grow. I said yesterday that while you can resort to demonstrations to bring down the government, but demonstration should be regarded as a last resort. But if you keep on having demonstrations all the time, nobody will invest. And when people do not invest, you cannot grow the economy, you cannot grow, you cannot create jobs, and it will be very difficult to recover economically. Thank you.